Think you can spot manipulation? Unless you know these 10 signs, you're probably getting played. And the worst part is, they're getting away with it. In this video, you'll learn the 10 most proven signs someone is manipulating you, straight from psychology experts, relationship counselors, and social scientists. We'll break down the subtle control tactics, the emotional triggers, and the tricks they use to make you think their ideas are yours. Once you know these signs, spotting manipulation won't just be a skill, it'll be instinct. The first sign someone is manipulating you is they create emotional intensity that clouds your judgment. Unlike liars who hide emotions, manipulators weaponize them to control your behavior and decisions without you even realizing it's happening. They deliberately trigger strong feelings, either positive or negative, because they know your brain can't process information logically when emotionally flooded. They might create artificial urgency, manufacture drama, or use excessive charm to short-circuit your critical thinking. This tactic is particularly effective because emotions always override logic in the human brain. Watch for people who constantly create emotional peaks and valleys in your interaction. Real relationships have emotional balance. Manipulation is characterized by emotional extremes designed to keep you off balance and compliant. If you feel emotionally exhausted after interactions, that's a major red flag. The second sign is strategic information control. Manipulators carefully curate what information you receive and when you receive it to ensure you make decisions that benefit them, not necessarily you. They might withhold critical details until after you've committed. They might drip feed information to keep you dependent on them, or they might overwhelm you with so much information that you can't process it all and just defer to their judgment. This creates an information imbalance that gives them significant power over your choices. Pay attention to people who always have one more thing to add after you've agreed, or who conveniently forget to mention important details that would have changed your decision. This pattern of selective disclosure is a deliberate strategy, not an innocent oversight or forgetfulness. The third sign is weaponized guilt. Manipulators are experts at making you feel guilty for having perfectly reasonable boundaries or needs, effectively using your own conscience against you as a control mechanism. They use phrases like, "After all I've done for you," or "I was only trying to help," or "I guess I just care too much." These statements are designed to make you feel selfish or ungrateful for questioning them. The goal is to make you so uncomfortable with your own boundaries that you abandon them. Notice how you feel after interactions. If you consistently feel guilty, like you're always falling short despite your best efforts, that's manipulation. Healthy relationships make you feel supported, not constantly indebted. Your needs and boundaries deserve respect, not punishment through guilt trips. The fourth sign is constantly moving goalposts. No matter what you do, it's never quite enough. You meet one expectation and suddenly there's a new one you didn't know about. This creates a perpetual state of striving that never leads to satisfaction or recognition. This creates a situation where you're constantly trying to prove yourself or earn their approval, but the finish line keeps moving. It's an effective manipulation tactic because it keeps you in a perpetual state of seeking validation. You become so focused on finally getting their approval that you don't question the relationship itself. Watch for patterns where your achievements are quickly dismissed and new expectations are immediately introduced. In healthy relationships, success is celebrated, not immediately replaced with new demands. Your accomplishments should be acknowledged, not used as leverage to extract more from you. The fifth sign is what security experts call forced teaming, creating a false sense that you're in something together when you're not. This tactic exploits our natural human tendency to cooperate with those we perceive as being on our team. Manipulators use phrases like, "We're in this together," "We both want the same thing," or "We need to do this," when in reality they're pursuing their own agenda. They use the word "we" to make you feel responsible for their goals or problems. This artificial bond makes it psychologically harder for you to refuse their requests. Pay attention when someone you barely know starts using "we" language prematurely, or when someone frames their personal desires as mutual goals. This subtle linguistic shift creates obligations where none should exist. Remember that true teamwork is consensual, not manufactured through language tricks. The sixth sign is selective hearing. Manipulators hear what they want to hear and conveniently forget or misinterpret anything that doesn't serve their purpose. This isn't accidental. It's a calculated strategy to avoid accountability while maintaining control. You might clearly state a boundary only to have them violate it and claim they never heard you say it. Or you might express a concern only to have them twist your words into something completely different. This pattern of selective comprehension only applies to things that inconvenience them, never to things that benefit them. This tactic makes you question your own memory and communication skills. You'll find yourself thinking, "Did I not explain that clearly?" This is a form of gaslighting designed to make you doubt yourself rather than question their behavior. Trust your memory. You know what you said and what you meant. The seventh sign is intermittent reinforcement. unpredictably alternating between reward and punishment, kindness and cruelty, attention and neglect. This creates a powerful psychological dependency that keeps you constantly seeking their approval and validation. This is the same psychological principle that makes gambling addictive. When rewards come unpredictably, we become more dependent on them than if they came consistently. Manipulators instinctively understand this and use it to create unhealthy attachment. The unpredictability keeps you constantly engaged, trying to figure out what will bring back the good version of them. Notice relationships where you experience extreme highs and lows, where you're never sure if you'll get praise or criticism. This unpredictability is often mistaken for passion or depth, but it's actually a control tactic. Healthy relationships have consistency and reliability, not dramatic emotional swings designed to keep you off balance. The eighth sign is subtle isolation from other perspectives. Manipulators don't want you getting input from people who might see through their tactics or offer alternative viewpoints that challenge their narrative and control over you. They might subtly criticize your friends or family, make it difficult for you to spend time with others, or react poorly when you share their advice. They want to be your primary influence because outside perspectives threaten their control. This isolation happens gradually. They rarely tell you directly to cut people off. Pay attention if someone seems threatened by your other relationships or dismisses any opinion that doesn't align with theirs. Healthy relationships encourage outside connections, not restrict them. A person who truly cares about you wants you to have a strong support network, not be dependent solely on them for emotional validation. The ninth sign is a cycle of idealization followed by devaluation. This often starts with love bombing, overwhelming you with attention, compliments, and affection, followed by periods of criticism, distance, or contempt. This dramatic contrast creates a powerful psychological addiction to the relationship. This creates an addictive cycle where you're constantly trying to get back to that initial perfect phase. You start to believe that if you just try harder or do better, they'll treat you well again. The highs feel so good that you're willing to endure increasingly painful lows just to experience them again. Watch for relationships that started with intense admiration that seemed too good to be true, followed by increasing criticism. This dramatic shift is rarely about your behavior. It's a manipulation tactic. No one goes from thinking you're perfect to finding constant fault with you unless they're deliberately manipulating your self-worth. The 10th sign is making you feel crazy for having normal emotional reaction. When you express hurt, anger, or concern about their behavior, they act shocked or offended that you would feel that way. This undermines your trust in your own emotional responses and perceptions. They might say things like, "You're overreacting," "You're too sensitive," or "That's not normal." This is gaslighting, making you question your own perceptions and emotional responses. Over time, this erodes your self-trust and makes you increasingly dependent on them to interpret reality for you. Notice if you find yourself constantly apologizing for your feelings or doubting your own reaction. In healthy relationships, your emotions are acknowledged as valid, even if others don't share them. Your feelings are important data about your experience. Don't let anyone convince you they're wrong or irrational just because they're inconvenient. Now that you know these 10 signs, you'll start noticing manipulation tactics that were invisible to you before. You might realize some people in your life have been manipulating you for years, and that awareness is the first step toward reclaiming your autonomy. Remember, manipulation isn't always malicious. Sometimes people use these tactics because they learned them in childhood. But regardless of intent, manipulation is harmful to both parties and prevents authentic connection based on mutual respect. The best defense against manipulation is awareness. When you can name the tactic being used, it loses much of its power over you. You can then make conscious choices rather than being unconsciously influenced by these psychological triggers. If this video opened your eyes, hit subscribe and drop a comment about which manipulation tactic you've experienced. Let's build a library of red flags together.